Good day everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to present at this Executive Planning Day. Today, I'll be sharing key economic insights and how they directly impact our strategy, enrollment, and long-term growth here at Knightsbridge House International School. Before diving into the topics, let's first understand why this is important for us as an organization. As a private education provider, our organization does not operate in isolation. Our performance is strongly influenced by external factors such as economic conditions, government policies, and consumer behavior. This affects enrollment, pricing, and cost, and guides expansion decisions. Understanding these factors allows us to make better decisions in areas like pricing, expansion, and student recruitment. With that in mind, let's start by looking at the broader economy and how it affects us. Now, I'll be talking about the macroeconomy and the business cycle. There are three key macroeconomic indicators that help us understand the overall health of the economy. First, Gross Domestic Product or GDP measures the total value of goods and services produced in an economy. A rising GDP indicates economic growth. Second, inflation refers to the general increase in prices over time. When inflation rises, the cost of living increases. Third, unemployment measures the percentage of people who are actively seeking work but are unable to find jobs. Together, these indicators provide a clear picture of economic conditions. Now that we understand these key indicators, let's see how they come together to form the business cycle. These indicators help us understand the business cycle, which refers to the fluctuations in economic activity over time. During an expansion phase, GDP is growing, unemployment is low, and inflation tends to rise due to strong demand in the economy. In contrast, during a recession, GDP growth slows or becomes negative, unemployment rises, and inflation is usually low because spending decreases. For our organization, these changes are highly relevant. During periods of economic growth, families generally have higher disposable income and are more willing to invest in private education, leading to higher enrollment. However, during a downturn, rising unemployment and financial uncertainty may cause families to prioritize essential spending, reducing demand for private schooling. Additionally, high inflation can increase our operating costs, such as salaries and rent, while also reducing families' abilities to afford our services. Therefore, understanding the business cycle allows us to better anticipate changes in demand and adjust our strategies accordingly. Next, I'll be discussing the aggregate demand and aggregate supply model. In 2025, the Singapore government introduced tax rebates for individuals, which effectively increased disposable income. When households have more income, they tend to spend more on goods and services, including education. In the aggregate demand and aggregate supply model, this increase in spending causes the aggregate demand curve to shift to the right. In the short run, this increase in aggregate demand leads to higher output and higher price levels. This means that more students may enroll in private education, creating an opportunity for revenue growth for our school. However, in the long run, the situation changes. As demand increases, businesses face higher costs such as rising wages, rental costs, and operational expenses. This causes the short-run aggregate supply curve to shift to the left, leading to even higher prices, while output returns to its original level. For our organization, this means that while tax rebates may boost enrollment in the short term, we must also prepare for rising costs in the long term. Strategically, this suggests the need to balance growth opportunities with cost management. Now, let's shift our attention to global factors that may impact our organization. A tariff is a tax imposed on imported goods or services. If the United States introduces tariffs on education-related services or materials, this increases the cost of supplying those services. In the supply and demand diagram, this results in the supply curve shifting to the left, indicating a decrease in supply. Now that we understand how tariffs affect the market, let's take a closer look at who benefits and who loses from these policies. Consumers lose because they have to pay more, while foreign providers lose due to reduced demand. The government gains revenue from the tariff, and local producers may benefit from reduced competition. However, there is also a deadweight loss, meaning that overall economy efficiency is reduced. For Knightsbridge House, tariffs may indirectly increase the cost of imported educational materials or limit opportunities for international partnerships and student enrollment. This highlights the importance of being aware of global economic policies even if they are implemented in other countries. So far, we've been looking at economic models that assume people behave rationally. However, in reality, decisions are not always purely logical. This brings me to the final topic, behavioral economics. Traditional economic theory assumes that individuals make rational decisions. However, behavioral economics shows that decisions are often influenced by psychological factors. This is especially relevant in education, where parents' decisions are influenced by perception, trust, and emotions. To better understand this, let's look at some practical examples of how this applies to our organization. One example is anchoring, where individuals rely heavily on the first piece of information they see. For instance, presenting a higher original tuition fee followed by a discount or scholarship can make the final price seem more attractive. Another example is social proof, where people are influenced by the actions of others. Parents are more likely to choose our school if they see testimonials, positive reviews, or successful alumni outcomes. By applying these behavioral insights, we can improve how we position and market our school to attract more students. Based on these insights, we can now identify several key actions for our organization moving forward. There are several key actions our organization should consider. We should closely monitor economic indicators to anticipate changes in demand. We should take advantage of short-term increases in demand while preparing for long-term cost pressures. We should also remain aware of global developments such as tariffs that may impact our operations. And finally, we should apply behavioral strategies in our marketing to better influence enrollment decisions. In conclusion, understanding both economic trends and human behavior allows us to make more informed and strategic decisions. By doing so, we can position Knightsbridge House International School for sustainable growth in an increasingly dynamic environment. Thank you.